Instead of setting a timer for every effect, therefore having multiple timers in the end for every keystroke, we want to make sure we always clear the previous timer because it doesn't matter to us anymore. If there is a new keystroke, the old timer can be dismissed. We always just want to measure a change from the latest keystroke to, well, after the pause. We're not caring about an older keystroke. So we want to clean up that timer. The good thing is, set timeout in the end gives you a reference, a pointer at that timer, which we can store in a constant timer here. And I'm doing this in the function we're passing to useEffect. So this is the currently active timer. And now there's something on useEffect which I simply haven't shown you before. useEffect takes a function, and this function can actually return something. Let me shrink that if statement. It's still there. It's just shrunken so that we don't see it. After the if statement, and most importantly, after this timer, but still inside of that function we pass to useEffect. So at the end of this function, we can return something. And thus far, we haven't returned anything in useEffect. Now, you don't need to return anything, but you can return something. But when you do return something, it always has to be a function. And this is a cleanup function. It's a function that will run right before this same useEffect function will run the next time. So not after this function is done, but before the next time it will run. So on the first render, this executes, and this does not execute. But then, on the first keystroke, we clean up the old effect, run a new one. On the second keystroke, we clean up that previous effect, run a new one, and so on. That's how this works. And here in the cleanup function, we can call clear timeout and pass in timer. This is how you clear a timer in JavaScript, to clear that previous timer. Again, cleanup will run for the previous effect before the new effect is applied. So this cleans up the old timer before it sets a new one. And this ensures that we always only have one ongoing timer, which is of course better because we don't have all these redundant timers in memory. We have only one timer instead. So if I now save this, we won't see a strong difference here. Still the same behavior as before. Still works as before, but it's more memory efficient because we don't have all these old timers going on behind the scenes in memory. Instead, we only have one timer at a time, like this. So this is how this works. This is how we can work with that. And this is how you can clean up your effects, which you might need in situations like this, but also, for example, if you're setting up some subscription to a web service or anything like that. Anything which might emit values regularly, you want to clean up your old subscription in that case, for example, if you're setting a new one with useEffect. And here it's the same with the timer. We want to clear our old timer when we're setting a new one so that we don't have all these redundant timers in our memory, which ultimately will take up a lot of memory and make our app slower.